Hello there, and welcome to the last Plague Blight, and today we got some starting tips and general information for you. There is quite a lot to learn about this game, that's why this video will probably end up being pretty long, but it's going to be a lot of useful information that you really need to know about this game. So the first thing you're going to want to know is the end result of where you want to go is going to be the island on your randomly generated map, and that's where the silver is going to be, so you don't want to have your main base as close as you can to this little island, so the trip is going to take you a lot less time, but you also want access to everything else in this game. You want access to like every biome in this game, so the location of where you're going to put your roots down there is going to be the key thing, and that's the first thing you're going to want to do on day one is go over the map and find out where you want to put your main base, because you could start up way up in the top over here, you could start way over there somewhere. It all depends on where the island's going to be on your map and where everything else is going to be. So all this stuff is going to be very vital for you to pick that the perfect location for you. So yeah, let's get started on the main things that you're going to need besides being close to that, because that's maybe a one-time trip or a two-time trip, but that's, it's not the full version yet. We don't know how much silver you're going to need at the end of the day and how much trips you're going to have to make to get it all. But so one trip might not be good enough. One trip doesn't really matter too much because it's going to be an adventure to do that. But anyways, you want access to rivers. You want access to lakes. It doesn't matter which one. You need access to water. Your base has to be right beside some water. But then also you need access to a lot of trees, because you have to cut down a lot of trees to get a lot of wood in this game for your fires. Your fires have to run constantly to all night long if you want to stay safe and stuff like that. So you got to keep them burning. It kind of sucks. It's a lot of wood to use. So yeah, lots of trees nearby is important. You also want to be You want to be near rocky area. So this is all rocky, elevated area, and that's where you're going to find stuff like copper and tin. You need a lot more copper than tin. You barely need any copper. So you just got to worry about any tin. You just got to worry about the copper in this game. You also got to worry about getting things like sandstone for yourself nearby, because you need to make a sharpening tool for yourself. But anyways, you also want access to caves, and finding the caves in this game is looking for things like this cliff face. So you see this little graphic right here. You want to find cliff faces, or rocky outcrops aren't really going to help you, but you want to find these cliff faces right here, and that's where I found my little iron mine down here. By going down through here, see these cliff faces right here, a nice big wall of cliff, and then that's where the cave is going to be, and that's where you're going to be your best that's going to be your best resource on where to find that iron, and you want that to be really close to your base. So you want to be close to a mountainous region that's going to have these cliff faces on here for you, right? So you want to be able to see these parts right here. So there's going to be some caves right here. So there's a cave right there. I guess there wasn't a cave there, but down farther here there was a cave right there. That's where the main thing is. A cave right there, I think. But that's where some of the stuff is. But anyways, you need to be close to that. You don't want to run around. You also need to be close to the swamp, because you have to make a couple trips there. You need lots of slime oil. It's going to be your main ingredient, is getting lots of slime out of the swamp. You're going to get poisoned a lot out of there, lots of blight in there. So you have to make sure you're prepared for that. But yeah, you're going to need to get close to there. You also have to be aware of how much blight is actually around these towns that you can't get into. Like I thought I would be fine by this river here. This river looks like it would be far enough away from the town, but it's not. The blight covers this part of the river here, so I can't get by. I have to hoof it and run around to get there. So I was kind of shed out of luck with my raft, and I thought a raft and a long trip over here would be fine, but that's quite a long trip. It takes quite a while to get that far on there. But traveling over here to the swamp is not too bad. But you also have to travel to the plains. That's also important too, because you need access to a lot of salt and a lot of other ingredients out there. So you need access to the plains too. So you need access to everything. Just be aware of that on your base. Like for example, if I wanted to pick a better base location with this, I might have actually ended up picking up over here instead, because out of all the areas on my map, this one here would be the best option for me, because right out here is close to the water, so I have access to the water. I have access to a road to make travel from up here and down there a little bit faster, so that's helpful. But yeah, you have access to plains area here and there, which is pretty close, and all this is rocky terrain too, so that's going to be lots of copper nearby. Then we have the forests right here, so we get the forest, the plains, and the river with all the clay you need. And then we have these rocky outcrops that are pretty close by. Well, they're close enough to actually run in there and make an iron run here and there. And there should be a cave nearby there. Hopefully, you could get out of luck and not have one. It is off to the side, so you want to be more centered than that. So it's not really the best map. But you kind of always just reload the game and start all over again. Okay, so now that's going to be your first major issue, is finding that location. Like this would be a better spot right here. If this town wasn't here, that would be good. And then I'd build over here somewhere. But you still need access to a swamp, and there's no swamp here, so over here more would be better. But there's no plains here, so that's not good either. And this here doesn't connect to this part right here, so that's no good. So that's all the stuff that you got to keep in mind. You want river access. You want to be close to swamps, and over here I got access to swamps. Everything's got to be centralized to make your life a lot easier. And you want to get to that base location right away, or because the blight, these things here, they spawn in more and more often. And they get bigger, and it's just that pain in the ass to deal with and travel around when that gets more. And all the stuff on the ground gets covered in more and more blight. So, and you have limited inventory space. You're going to notice you have that big bedroll on you, and no big backpack, and you can't craft a new bedroll, so you can't just leave it and forget about it, and you can't sleep good without one. So yeah, you're pretty much screwed. You got to carry that big thing around. And when you start the game off, you start with some food, but you start off with half water and half stuff. And to get water, you're going to have to boil it up there and make a fire and all that stuff. But yeah, that's what involves the first tip. Now the first tip is just go around there, find a large rock right away, and craft that into a stone bowl. Keep that in your hand, and then you can go there and craft with some berries you pick. So just go pick some berries and crush those guys up there, and you can make some water for yourself. You make some berry juice. And you don't want to eat these guys because that that 0.03 water per berry kind of sucks. And when you crush one berry, you get 10 milliliters versus 0.03. So yeah, then you can sit there and drink that. So that's how you get water early on in the game without worrying about a fire. So you can hydrate yourself that way and get to your base location without stopping and making a campfire. And if you want to get some other food in this game, then the next best food on there, let's go there, hit that Alt key and get that on there, is a pine cone. So we go pick up the pine cone, even though it says the pine cones usually stay low contamination, 2%. For this late in the game is not bad. And then you craft it and you take out the food on there, and then bam, you got 10. And then it's 0.3, so you're getting 3 food, but it's like 0 contamination. You still have that 2%, but for your food, but you don't eat it all. And still, I had 8.8, and I still have 8.8. So I didn't gain any blight for eating that. If I ate another batch of that, I probably would get another 0.1 on there maybe if I ate some more. But yeah, that's easy access to food. And since there's no real recipes for cooking and stuff like that, you have to eat the mushrooms basically raw. And some of the mushrooms are decent to eat, and some of them are not so decent to eat. And that would be you can check them out right here. This one here is worth 0.4 food, but 0.3 corruption, so that's pretty bad right off the bat. But this one here is 2.8 food, so that's not bad for 0.3 corruption, so that's not too bad. Early on in the game it's going to be a lot less because this is at 30% right now, so you can eat mushrooms like that and get your food up there. So now that you've got your food and your basic water supply done, run to your main base, and then you can go and worry about stuff like making traps for yourself. Rabbits are pretty much limited to 2 a day at most if you're lucky, but they also attract the other predators, which will come in there and eat them. So you have to keep an eye on them, which means it can be a pain in the ass. But predators don't go around and eat your fish traps. And that's the other trap you can make. And that fish trap catches up to 5 fish, which is good enough to feed you for a whole day right there. And of course, the fish will decontaminate pretty fast. So you have to worry about that too. So they get pretty bad shape, and there's less meat and stuff like that, so they're not as good as rabbit meat, but they are a lot quicker and easier to do. Another trick you can do to keep your food fresh and out of the hands of the predators once you find it, since the best idea is to keep your food as high condition as possible. So don't kill your rabbits. If you can, go ahead and build a little pen for yourself and save them for later, basically, right? And save them up, because you cook more rabbits at once or more meat at once. You can use less ingredients if you actually want to make a cooking recipe with it. So we'll close that. We'll sneak in here. We'll put a trap down here so don't run away from us. And then you can pick up the rabbit. It's alive. We don't have to kill it. Its condition is still pretty good. We actually can't kill it from our inventory, which kind of sucks, or do anything with it. It's 35% decontaminated now. That's how late it is in the game for me. We'll just drop this guy down. He'll run away, and then we'll close our little fence, and then we'll lock it up there. So yes, now it's locked. And then we have this other fence here we don't need. But he'll just run around there and eventually get caught in that trap again. Maybe the trap will eventually kill him. I don't know how long he'll last just running around, or he'll despawn or something like that. But usually stuff like that doesn't really despawn too often. But at least they'll keep him fresh for a while. You could try and do that for a little trick. And that next trick is getting rid of the predators. Actually, I don't want these spears right here. These spears right here, they take too much work. You can't sharpen them. You want the basic spears. It's good enough. for the damage. And you want to get rid of these guys, stay far away from them, and got to aim a little bit down and to the right to get a better shot on them. But there you go. If you're far enough away, they just run away. They'll walk back towards you again eventually too. But you can just keep going by and chucking your spears at them and tell them to go away, and actually aim it a little bit better than I do, hopefully. But yeah, you just gotta hold it a little bit longer and get rid of them. They have a ton of hit points, especially those guys there. So you're not gonna kill them right away or anything like that, but you can just keep the pressure up and like that, and make him keep going. But that's how you get rid of them. He's gone for now. They're not really, predators aren't really great for meat. They have like a very high corruption value. Like a bear would, bear would be 50% to 80% right now for its corruption on there, so it's not really that great for that. For eating right now, so don't worry about that right now. But we will get to the rest of the food later. We'll do the last tip with the traps, because there's one last trap that you want to learn about in this game, and that is the bear trap, which doesn't actually catch any bears. It only does 80 damage, and it says it does laceration damage, but that doesn't work. I haven't seen anybody bleed out. But this 80 damage is good enough to kill a deer, basically. The deer have like 80 hit points. And that's the only reason why you might want some flint spears, because flint spears do 40 damage. So 2 flint spears will kill a deer versus 3 of the other ones. So there's a black bear up there. Yeah, another bear. Yay. But anyways, if you find a pig, for example, pigs aren't hostile toward you unless you attack them, but a trap does not count. So if you want to go there and kill a pig easily, just walk around there, find where the pig is laying down there, and then he's walking in one direction, get in front of him, and drop the trap. He'll take some damage, he'll run around a little bit, oh, I got hurt, but then you just go there and pick the trap up there and place it down in front of him again, and repeat that process 3 times or so until the pig dies, and then bam, you kill the pig. You didn't have to do any combat, you don't get hurt, and it was pretty easy to do that 80 damage, and it's a lot better than, say, trying to throw a spear at them and keep away, because they are really tanky and do a lot of damage to you, and like an iron spear is only 65 damage, and that's not really worthwhile to craft these guys for your time spent on making them, especially when you chuck them and throw them. Like, this won't kill this little deer here if I actually hit him. Got him in the butt. So yeah, that's not going to kill him. We'll try another shot. Let's see if we can get close enough to do that. Stop moving right behind that tree. That should be good. There we go, got it. So it's good enough to kill a deer 2 shots. So I guess it does have a useful thing there. This one here, I don't know how much hit points a stag has, so that doesn't matter. About 31% infection on there, and this will get to the next part of the meat. So we'll just harvest 2 of these guys right here, go a little bit faster, and we'll show you the different values of the meat and what you want to end up doing. Because these guys have no fat, and it's like 1 fat per 1 sausage, and this makes 5 of them. So that's not a great idea to actually use that meat to make sausages. So the only thing you can make sausages out of really is pigs or bears, and that's a lot of work to kill a bear, and it's very corrupted. Lots of corruption on there, so you're gonna get lots of blight on there, and so that's not a good idea until you have some disinfectant for yourself. But the best way to do this stuff is to actually turn this stuff into strips. So we'll take this guy here, we'll craft this one guy into strips. And deer meat goes into 10. Every meat's going to have a different value. I think pigs are 14 strips. Deer meat works well because, I think the regular deer gives you 4 slices of meat, and that will fill up your smoker perfectly. So 1 deer will fill this thing up perfectly and be totally full. And it doesn't look like there's much of a value right now, but when you smoke it, you actually preserve it too. The preserving is not as good as the other preserving with salt and water for yourself, but it's still decent enough at the end of the day. But this stuff right here, for example, it starts off at 2.1, but it goes down to, this one right here, it'll probably go down to 0.3, I think, for that value. This, on the other hand, for the deer meat itself, like its condition is still like 95%, but you're only getting 33 food out of it. It's less than what you get out of rabbits for its meat, and this is what the other meat is all like right now. But this one here is 9.2 on its corruption after you cook it. And that's starting at 30%. Then you go there and you find some of the stuff I'm preserving right now, and this is half done, and it's at 0.2 right now. And I think this was off a predator, I believe. So this was off a wolf or something. I think I made this out of this jerky out of. I forget what it was out of. It doesn't really matter, but to get that same meat value, which was 30, right? So this here meat value is 30, and I'm getting like 9 corruption, 9 blight out of it when I cook it. and eat it. And we can, since this is half done of the 80%, so this would be 0.3 or 0.4, and to get like, this is 4.5 food, so 10 of these would be 10 of these would be 45. So just eating 10 of these, for example, if I ate 10 of those things, I would get more meat than the eating that other deer meat over there. And then also I would get, since this is halfway done, we could say it's 0.4 even, and I get 4 corruption. So even in being generous on the regular deer meat parts, I'm eating this and I'm getting more meat, and I'm getting 4 blights for myself at full value without decontaminating it. And this one here, I'm getting like 9. So I'm getting as half as less for just smoking it up there. So you just smoke it up there, then you can reduce it a lot later on. So you get less food out of it overall for the things on there. So I believe, well, actually no, it doesn't work out too well. This is that 10 pieces right there. We'll smoke up into there right here. That'll be 45, right? So I get 45 out of that, and that's out of 1 strip of meat, and then the 1 strip of meat goes into 33. So yeah, either way, it's going to be a lot better if you just smoke stuff and preserve it. So don't worry about preserving it with the other fluids and stuff like that, and putting all that salt in there, which we saw in my things right here, all that salt water, and preserving it. If you just go end up with jerky, you don't need to have salt water in there too to do it, and do both at once like I've been doing for the other meat, like the rabbit meat I've been cooking over there for myself and preserving it at the same time. That's what you want to do. I got a video explaining all this stuff dedicated to that. I also got another video dedicated to the farming, and the overall is basically useless, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And I'm going to do another video on the advanced building, because building something big like this is a pain in the ass. And just for this one little clay tile section of the roof, takes like 57 tiles, and that's 8 of them. And so that's 8 times 57 to make for clay tiles to make the roof, and then you need all the other stuff to make the walls. You don't need all that stuff. The main goal that you have in this game after you start getting there and making your base is getting your water and stuff like that, and that is finding the clay and building all your resources with clay. So that's going to be your next most important goal that you're going to have to remember. And the other stuff there is just keep in the back of your mind for later for yourself. Taking stuff out of this inventory here, don't put it over here. Don't dump it down there, because you lose your inventory if you put it down there. If you put it over here, you get it all. If you hold the Alt button, I'll get half of it, so then I'll get half my clay like that. But anyways, you go craft with that and show you what you need. You don't need an axe mold. You don't need a clay bowl. You need a lot of clay bricks. So that's the first thing you have to build anyways, to build a bigger kiln for yourself, because it takes 20 of these bricks to build it. So that takes 20. The other thing takes 20. Some of the thing takes 25. Another one takes 10. So that's how much clay bricks you're going to need. You're going to have to make a candle mold for yourself, and to make the candles, you have to just cook the fat, and you need a wick, which is a rope. You just basically craft with a rope, and you get some wicks, and then bam, you got some candles. That easy. And cooking the bronze and the copper, and that's, you got to have one of these guys here. So you need that. That holds 1,000. And to cook the best batch, you need 80 copper and 10 bronze, basically. And that's the little small chunks, not the big chunks. Just the small chunks, 80 small pebbles and 10 small of the bronze, and that equals 1,000. But even though it shouldn't, but it does. So you get 1,000 off of that. To fill that up there, you don't need that. The clay jugs are what you need to hold your food in there and ferment it. And so you definitely need some of these later on once you get into the fermenting process, and you got to crush your berries and turn the berries turn into vinegar, which is what you're going to use to craft that disinfectant for yourself. And then of course you need a lid for that too, so you need a saw. So the saw is the first thing you got to worry about, because the jars are useless until you have a saw, and then you can actually make a lid for yourself, because you need planks for that. So don't worry about that. The soft clay jugs, you're going to want 2 of these things off the bat. One to hold your clean water that you've been cooking, and the other to actually function with the tanning bed for yourself. So make sure you make 2 of those. The knife mold you don't need. You start off with the only knife you can actually make in this game anyways. So you get a steel knife anyways. You can't even craft one. So if you lose it for some stupid reason, then reload your game, basically. Don't worry about making a clay pot. The clay pot, for example, is 1,000 liquid in there. So that's what you want those things for. And that's why you don't want to bother clay jars. They hold 500. You want the clay pot right here that holds 1,000. That's what you want to use over your cooking fire. That's the best option out there. So you need one of those to cook your water with. And then you dump it into the clay jug, and then you're good. And then you can cook off of it too. And then you can use these stone bowls for the other recipes for yourself if you need the exact amount of 200 easily for yourself. Clay, the nail molds, you're going to want 10 of these guys here, so you can use that 1,000 bronze you're going to get to make the bronze nails for yourself and make batches of those. The clay pan is pretty neat, but you don't need it. You can get bronze and clay pebbles out of the rivers and stuff like that with it. And the clay tiles, that's just a glorified roof. Basically, you don't need that. It's just that's how much it takes. That's how much clay it takes. Remember that? Remember. 57 times 8 times 150. That's how much clay you need to do that. If you want to make a big enough house for yourself. Saw blade molds, you just need one of those. And this is something that you have to have right away to actually make your bronze saw, to make those planks for yourself. That's your first goal, so you can actually start tanning leather and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely make one of these and make 2 of the saws. So just don't stop at one. Make 2 saw blades for yourself if you can, because your saw blade is going to get worn out and dull right away for yourself. And I will show, yeah, you can't even sharpen it, so don't worry about my sharpening tips that I have to remember. I just remember to tell you the sharpening tips because that's important too. Yeah, that's going to be the most important tip to keep your stuff out there. So anyways, the watering jugs we don't need unless you're going to be planting stuff, but they are neat. They only hold 300 water, but you can't drink out of them, but they do stay in your inventory and they don't spill water out like the other things do. So that's good. But that's all you need for the clay, and that's that. And you're done with the clay. But you know, the clay is very important for all that stuff because you need these little jugs right here for yourself to make your life a lot easier, because filling up your little tanning bed, which is one of the first things you're going to want to build right away because you're going to want that leather, of course, because you need to get that slime, is to fill this stuff up, and it's a lot easier. So look how much this stuff takes. All this work. This thing here holds 2,500 milliliters, and of course you're going to want to build this right beside the river because it takes a while to fill up, for example. And then you want to fill this guy up there, and it takes like about 500 salt on here. At least you don't have to restock this up with salt anymore. As soon as you put like 500 in it, you should be good. You want 10 or 9% to get the proper tanning on there. This is already tanned and ready to go to get the maximum effect on there. So, and the only thing you actually really need that higher percentages for is a bear skin. And the rabbit skins will go with sloppy numbers, so they tan real fast on the rabbit skins. But the bear skins, you have to get that perfect, or you won't get it. And the bear skin is the only thing that has a recipe right now for a chest, but it's way too warm, so I don't use it. I have it in my bag somewhere. 80 damage, so that's that trap right there. The bear just walked over it. And, ow! But those traps are not good for protecting your rabbit traps. They still eat them anyways. They still eat them and just take the damage and ignore it basically, right? Because they got so many damn hit points. Anyways, that we'll cover that part right there, because the main goal is get that slime ball, for example. So that's why you need the leather bags. Make sure you have a couple leather bags, and then you can distill that with your candles. With there, I think I already told you that you need that fat and cook the fat up there to make that. But you need this stuff. It needs to be covered by walls, or the candles will blow out. So that's why you need the basic walls. You don't need to have advanced structures like this. Just the basic stick walls should do. Maybe even 2 walls will do, and then just enough to break the wind, so the candles don't blow out on you. And then you'll be able to cook and distill that stuff. You just need one of these, and that's just copper in there. So just copper or bronze for yourself. And of course you got to use stumps for your anvil. So you don't need the anvil. I found that guy, didn't craft it. So, but yeah, you can go there and just make your base inside a stump like I did, and or on the outside. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I want to make my base convenient for myself for all my smelting needs on there for myself. Basically, right? So yeah, you got that stuff covered. Now the last tip on there is actually when you're crafting stuff, your stuff is going to be crafted in there, and it's going to come in there, and it's going to start at this is just a small tip, but when you get your grinding wheel and you want to sharpen this stuff, you're going to lose durability on it, right? So the durability on my saw, for example, is 9 right now, and it only has 10. It's 32% rusted, I guess, and I got to sharpen it, and I'm going to lose some durability on it when I fix it. On there, so it's fixed it. It's still rusted. That kind of sucks. You're losing that stuff when rust while drying. So I gotta keep your tools dry. So you don't really want to run around with them, I guess. That rusted doesn't really take much of an effect right now, does it? Oh, it does. It's that rusted stuff is killing my sharpness on my sword. I should have been paying attention to that rusted value. So yeah, just be aware of that rusted value. Don't get your weapons and stuff wet, because they rust when they dry, and sharpening them doesn't really help the quality right there. Where's my sword? Where's my sword? Steel sword. It's just rusting. So yeah, we can't fix the rusting with the sword there. Yeah, still rusted. Yeah, and so you lose a lot of your damage off that. That should be saying 80 damage. So yeah, that kills it. So make sure you're not carrying your tools with you unless you're actually using them. Like this here hammer is shot basically, right? Yeah, we're losing some rust on this one here. I just made it. So yeah. keep this stuff out of the rain, out of the water for yourself. But yeah, the other thing is this stuff when you first craft it is what I'm trying to get to. And when you first craft this stuff, it's going to be at 70% value for the sharpness on there. And then when you sharpen it, you're going to lose that durability. And so you're going to lose quite a bit of durability sharpening your stuff. So what you can do before you craft this stuff and finish it off there, you make the saw blade, take the blade itself or the sword blade or the axe blade if you want the more advanced axe. The pick and the hammer don't count because you can't sharpen those, but all this other stuff with the blades, go there and sharpen the blade part first, and then come over to the work table and then put them together and craft them together, and then they'll be at 100% condition, and they'll have the full value of their durability too. So that's just a small minor tip, because it's just you're just losing 0.3 sharpening it again at the start. But if you want to have them at 100% right off the bat, sharpen them first, then put them together, and you'll save yourself that little headache. And that's it for the tips, I guess. There, it's just a small helpful thing, I guess. But anyways, that is the rundown of this game, and hopefully you've learned enough to get started and get yourself going and be effective and get as much done as possible before the blight comes in there and poisons everything. Not too bad on you, right? So there you go. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.